go. Was it just me, or could I feel a bit of a chill in the air? That's right, it's September. September, the month of harvests and moons, and the month of harvest moons. The Old English word for September was harvest month, which means harvest month in modern English, pretty obviously. And that makes complete sense, right? Because obviously September is the month that we harvest all of our crops. Well, we don't do it, but you know, farmers and people like that do it. Harvest month. Why did we move away from such a perfectly descriptive and romantic word for September, and why do we call it September today? So we changed over to calling it September in Roman times. The Romans obviously spoke Latin, and septem is the Roman word for seven. But why would the 9th month of the year be named after the word seven? It doesn't make any sense. Well, yes, it does. The Roman months went Martius, Aprilis, Maius, Junius, and the next 6 months were named after their numerical place in the year. So Quintilis, Sextilis, September, October, November, and December. So yeah, 10 months. Who knew? I prefer harvest month. It sounds so much more pagan and interesting. So yeah, September after septem, which means 7 after its place in the calendar. 7 like the 7 deadly sins. So the 7 deadly sins used to actually be 8, and the original 8 were gluttony, lust, avarice, anger, sloth, sadness, vanity, and pride. Avarice means greed, husband, boyfriend, something more, cash and status, something more, YouTube likes and views once more. I hate to say I wanted more. At this point, I'll just say don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Of the 7 deadly sins, sloth is my favorite. Everything about them is just so lazy, which I really, really appreciate. They're so lazy, they take 30 days to digest a leaf. Their digestion is so slow, they can starve to death on an empty stomach. And the reason why the rest of the world have avocados is because sloths were so lazy, they couldn't be bothered to peel and eat the avocado, so they would just eat them whole. And you know, this served to spread the avocados around in the natural fashion. And I love avocados, and that's why I love sloths. And that's why I love sloths. You know, they brought avocados very much to the masses. Fall versus autumn. Well, these terms are used pretty interchangeably, but obviously you have more people in America using the word fall, more people in the UK using the word autumn. So both terms originated in Britain, fall and autumn. Before we had fall and autumn as names for the season, the Old English actually just used to refer to it as harvest. So given that language is the most efficient and succinct way of communicating yourself, generally speaking, terms that are redundant tend to kind of drop off in day-to-day usage. So yeah, we used to call the season harvest, but you know, a harvest can obviously mean harvest as in, you know, a harvest, a pumpkin harvest, or a maize harvest, or whatever it is you're harvesting. So when the variation autumn came in via Latin, this obviously rendered the term harvest slightly less useful, because obviously harvest can refer to one of two things, i.e. the season or a harvest, whereas autumn can only refer to simply the season. So in some ways, autumn came along and pushed out the term harvest, declaring itself far more useful. And so poor old harvest as a term for the season walked off with its tail between its legs. So yeah, we had autumn, and we also started to use the word fall. Obviously, poets and romantics love the season, so they started to use the phrase fall of the leaves. So fall is literally an abbreviation of fall of the leaves. Waning contact between US English speakers and British English speakers meant that one took off in America and one took off in England. It could well have been that Americans decided to champion the word fall because it It was simply their desire to be different. British English speakers possibly were more suckers for maybe the more formal or older variety. I don't know. So yeah, that's my hot take. Personally, I think fall is more apt. When the clocks go forward in the spring and back in the autumn, we can quite satisfyingly remember which way round it goes by remembering spring forward and fall back. So yeah, I prefer fall because you can't say spring forward and autumn back. It just doesn't work as nicely. So yes, I am a champion of fall, despite being a British English speaker. I would say fall, but and it would look very strange on me, I think. So yeah, autumn from autumnus in Latin, which I was thinking actually reminds me of Mr Tumnus, the character from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Mr Tumnus is half human, half fawn, and he is a centaur. So apparently Mr Tumnus in the novel represents the kind of inner struggle between cowardice and courage, dishonesty and honesty, betrayal and faithfulness, half man, half fawn. It got me thinking that they're transitional creatures, just like autumn is as a season. Autumnus, Mr Tumnus, probably quite a deliberate name by the great Mr C.S. Lewis. So the reason why autumn exists in Greek mythology is because the season of autumn began when Persephone was abducted by Hades to be queen of the underworld. Demeter, who was Persephone's mum, was the goddess of the harvest and caused all of the crops to die until her daughter was returned to her. So Persephone's return marks the season of spring. But don't you just love the colours of autumn? Why on earth do the trees change colour? So the yellow changes because the weather cools in autumn, and this starts to break down the chlorophyll inside the leaves, the chlorophyll being the chemical that gives leaves their green colour. So the yellow is kind of like a waning green, which is kind of the colour that most trees go first. I really like yellow. Sunshine yellow, buttercup yellow, daffodil, cream, ochre, magnolia, straw, saffron, mustard and lemon, to name but a few. And it's crazy how different colours can mean different things in different parts of the world. So in China, I read that yellow is associated with pornography, and it's also the colour of emperors. In Egypt, it's the colour of mourning and sadness because of its close association with gold, which represents eternal life. In Europe, it's the colour of cowardice, weakness and betrayal. In Germany and France, it's the colour of jealousy. So yeah, it kind of gets a bit of a bad rap. But I refute that because as a yoga teacher, I happen to know that yellow is supposed to be the colour of the solar plexus chakra, which is located in the belly, and it's supposed to symbolise energy and confidence. So next time you're feeling a little bit low on energy and confidence, all you need to do is bust out a solar plexus stimulating pose to kind of show everybody what a badass you are. But the cutest thing about the changing colour of the trees, especially when they go red, is because the red is kind of produced where lots of sunlight and dry weather have increased the concentration of sugar in the tree sap. So the tree releases these kind of chemicals in an attempt to grab the last of the remaining energy from its leaves, powering it up for the winter. So sugar being the power up. And that's amazing because autumn has always struck me as a really sweet time of year. Watch out for my videos on pecan pies coming up soon. And my one last fact, apparently people who are born in autumn actually live longer, or they're more likely to live to 100. My grandma lived to 96 and she was born in July. So had she been born in September, maybe she would have seen 100. I'll end with a quote from one of her favourite poets, Keats, in his poem, An Ode to Autumn. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. If you enjoyed that, don't forget to subscribe. I would be very happy if you do, because it means that I'll probably end up making another video.